Welcome to Realm IQ Sessions, where we talk about everything with AI leaders from around the world. Please give us a follow or subscribe. I'm Curt Doty, and some people say I don't need an introduction, but sometimes I do need an introduction. So I'm going to explain who I am. I'm a Hollywood veteran in branding and marketing and now a podcast host. I started my AI consultancy last year called Realm IQ, focused on education and AI adoption, giving workshops to universities and businesses, and also advising AI startups with our AI Accelerator program. So that's me, but today's guest is Sandu Baciu. He's an engineer doing advanced technology integration and civil construction involving 3D and 4D schedules, 3D printing, augmented reality, integration, and AI visual applications. He's one of the leading AI creators. If you haven't seen his work on LinkedIn, it's fabulous. And he's an expert in sketch to 3D. So welcome, Sandu. So glad to have you on the show. And did I miss anything in that intro? And please elaborate.
No, thanks. Thank you, Kurt. As you said, my name is Sandu Baciu. That's a Romanian name. It's a lot of people have asked me how should I pronounce the last name. So you did it very well. It's the right pronunciation.
Okay,
She
good.
is
Well, I'm
for
Croatian.
Romanian.
I'm Croatian back in the day, so
Right. Yeah,
maybe
very
I
cool.
have some command of
Super
languages.
cool. AI obviously when pop up become a very fast one of my passion. My background obviously it's in civil engineering, but when we do civil engineering, we do a lot of 3D modeling. I started long time ago with AutoCAD in 90s, and I started building in 3D. I was playing with 3D Studio Max at that time. AutoCAD bought them lately. But the background is quite strong on the 3D side. But in the last few years, when applications like MidJourney pop up, I was trying to see how we can apply the visuals and maybe convert that in 3D. Because the first thing which people notice, all those renders in MidJourney, and even at the lower versions, when it was like version 3 or 4, they were outstanding. Like you made a prompt and you ask something like a house to be in architectural view from front or axonometry. It's a trick for the prompt is actually to put some architectural terms on it, like axonometry or isometric, which are the terms for modeling basically. So
Mhm.
when you do that, the results, they were actually looking very well. You could say, well, is this done with 3D Studio Max? What software those guys did? And I was kind of thrown off because I realized it's actually an image software. They did not have anything 3D on it. They use image references and, the whatever algorithm they have. I'm not an expert on the IT stuff, but I can figure out that they use a database of some sort and they combine the images, but the results looks like 3D. And I say, "Oh, how they did it? It's like it's obviously not done with 3D." So that was the first thing which threw me a little bit, like challenged me, and I say, well, is a way to kind of reproduce that. And I start putting on LinkedIn images where I said, okay, I do not know how they did it, but I can reproduce them with software. Even I made several samples showing how you can do that in SketchUp. SketchUp is a 3D model. You can use the free version. Right now it's with Trimble, but people know SketchUp because at one time it was with Google. But historically speaking, it was not actually a Google product. Somebody else created that software. At last, I think it was the name of the software. And what they have very interesting from 3D modeling point of view with SketchUp, they invent that push-pull button. Basically, you have a cube and you take any face, and with push-pull, you move it where you want. So SketchUp, it was really easy as a software to use. So when I have those images with MidJourney, I thought, well, maybe I can use that as a reference on the back. And with SketchUp, I can use it as they call it match photo, the principle how to do it.
Mhm.
Put it on the background and build it in 3D. And that's what I did. And I show some examples with the people, and after that, use the texture. Basically, you do a texture projection on the volumes, which you do it in 3D in SketchUp, and you'll be surprised. You realize, oh my God, this cuts my work in 3D in half because half of the work is done by MidJourney. So, that was the first thing when we realized AI, it's very versatile, and obviously you can be very productive with AI. And I explained that only from my 2D toward 3D. Obviously, it's far more powerful only on the 2D side, where at this moment with MidJourney and any other software, there are plenty others too, very strong and very powerful. You can create almost realistic images. I'm not sure even if it works to build it in 3D, because in the future probably will be in 3D directly with those softwares. That looks to be the trend.
Right. So let's speak about trends, because you talk about 3D software, SketchUp, and is it true? Please confirm for me. Like, okay, so now you have an image that you made that looks very dimensional and gorgeous and all that. You still can't translate that into a CAD drawing that is 3D, that a game designer or an architect could then use to build what you have pre-visualized. Is that still true today?
It is like a journey. It's in the mid part. We are not there at the end of the tunnel, but we are somewhere in the middle and we see the light. In the sense that at this moment there are several options. One is CSM, a common sense machine. This is an application. It's like an AI tool, which is taking to the image, and by their algorithm, which it looks like it's based on a free software, which is 0123, they call it, for people which are using GitHub, probably they're familiar with it. But it is a process where actually the software is probabilistically trying to determine how is the back. For instance, if I have a house, I will see the front of the house, or maybe the sides of the house, but I do not see the back of the house. So what this software is trying to do is to probabilistically determine how that back may look like based on references with that image, which they actually show the back, right? So it's giving you a probabilistic option, and it's in 3D. Now, from quality of the 3D, now we go a little bit on the details here, but the quality to me is not there, in the sense that the quality is more like a low mesh, as we call it in the 3D world. It's basically a blob. It's like you try to make a cube out of a sphere, and you take the sphere and you mash it, and but still there are some parts which are round, which for, let's say, architectural and engineering and hard surfaces, not so great. You want a line to be line, straight, an angle between the faces of two planes to be perfectly sharp. The current technology, it doesn't give you that. But what is giving you is give you more on organic option, and also it's throwing the texture on it. And they play with the association between the textures with that 3D mesh, which is not perfect, is blobby, but you have the good textures on it. It looks very well. So in that sense, you can use some of those conversions from 2D to 3D, mostly for, let's say, characters, small characters which you can animate. And I think CSM, Common Sense Machine, they already noticed that as an opportunity, and actually they went a step beyond. At this moment, you can put a character, you can convert it in 3D, and you can assign a rigging. It's basically that skeleton where you can animate that particular character. So, and on top of that, also they give you various predefined options. So in CSM, basically, if you put a character, and the trick is actually that image of that character to be like a rigging character. That means the hands to be on the side, from view, leg spread. So when it's doing the mesh, it's doing a mesh without combining or merging a hand into the body, or instead of having both legs, you have only a leg, and still they are connected between. So it's not good for the 3D model. But when you do it in, let's say, the rigging position and get that image, the results are very good. And on top of that, you can rig it, and they give you also the pre-movements like jump, left, right, squat, and it's very good for gaming. That's for sure. Now, doesn't need to be super detailed. If you have a game with small characters like Diablo, goes perfectly. It save a lot of times. But again, that is CSM. If you want to do, let's say, vehicle or industrial design, there is another product. The name is VSCOM, and they did a lot of progress with that, especially also on the 3D side. VSCOM, it's very good for industrial design and concepts designs. That means from visual point of view, and I really like it. I do sketch a lot by hand. I did that from many years ago, and they give me a good results because they maintain the lines, the design of that sketch. MidJourney also give you that, but many times it's very wild. It's, you know, you sketch a car with certain lines, and when you go on MidJourney, it gives you something else, kind of.
Well, it wants to be creative, right?
Right. Well, yeah, no, which is okay. Depends what you want to do. But you know, any designer, they want to maintain their lines. That's the reason why they call designers. You know, they design and they want to maintain it, and that's the challenge which I'm seeing with AI right now. Yeah, when you have all those variations, it becomes a little bit more cumbersome because at one time you don't want too many changes. Yeah, at the beginning in the incipient phase, you know, brainstorm or you know, get inspired. Yeah, you are okay. You know, you can have wild stuff, but after that, when you decide, okay, I want these curved lines, I want it in this way, I want these proportions, which is extremely important for design, the proportions, you want to maintain it. And MidJourney is doesn't quite doing that, right? And VSCOM is doing that. And also it's another software which actually is good with that as well. The name is Newark. But VSCOM is good for visuals for vehicles, you know, whatever industrial design
products
right. And they
industrial
embrace exactly, and they embrace the 3D. So you know, they started, and I like it because they are actually a design tool to me. Basically, AI, it's enhancing your idea, and you can color it, you can present it, but also you can use it for design. You know, adjusting a little bit, but not crazy, just to maintain the proportions. And that's that you can have the 3D side. So it looks like they obtained several good results. My gut feeling is still looking a little bit blurry, but again, it's pioneering mode. I do think in time when somebody's going to have a CAD-like computer-aided design or, you know, something which is built like in Blender, I want a mesh where, you know, I don't want to clean up the mesh because that's the biggest challenge. You know, you can have a 3D model. That's not a problem, but you're going to spend probably more time cleaning up rather than just building it from scratch. Like for example, with SketchUp, if you have an architectural house, let's say something which is Bauhaus, which are actually cubical, you know, so something rectangular, not the organic shape like Zaha Hadid, you know, like you can use that. But for something which is classic, you know, like 1920s Bauhaus style, which are basically cubes, you can be very fast because you have a cube. You know, just drag the faces up and down. You put a rectangular window, a door. It's fast. You build it relatively very fast. Now, if you try to do that with AI and you have a good image, a nice image, and you convert that with CSM or VSCOM or any other. I didn't talk about Config AI, but you can convert also with Config AI based on same technology, 0.3. And there are other ones too, triple S. They can give you that, but it's give you the blobby result. So when you get that blobby result and you try to fix it, it takes way too much time to fix it. So therefore, I do see it right now. Depends what you want to do and depends on the complexity of the model which you want to create. Sometimes it's actually faster to still do it in traditional way, especially if it's like cubes, like Bauhaus, even vehicles as well. If it's like military kind of vehicles, which are actually or Cybertrucks, you know, like the Cybertruck from Elon Musk. That's easy to model because they are faces, you know, like you have a place, you cut it, you have a plane, you do a Boolean, done, right? You'll be surprised how fast you can get, for instance, the shape of a Cybertruck, because
and I've seen some of those things done. They're amazing. I just want to summarize my take on what you just explained because, you know, the idea of, you know, production design in games and movies, could be a valuable tool, but it's not quite there yet. But I think it excels in the pre-visualization world, like just imagine worlds, right? And build worlds. And you know, those worlds back in the day used to be done by matte painters that, you know, would be a scene that would be a background even in movies. And they were just paintings, you know, going back to Disney and Disney animation, They just had a series of painters. They paint the paintings. They'd be the backgrounds, and then they do the animation over. But in character design, you're saying that you can actually, and what is kind of optimized for game design in terms of characters and games, it can work well, but it won't build the architectural structures that you're moving through, let's say, in a gaming world. But you can develop characters that could then be integrated into games. And so is that adding to a lot of the strife and layoffs that are happening in the gaming world that you read about every day, where studios are closing, they're shutting down, they're laying off people, or they're supposedly going to use AI now instead of actual designers and artists, right? Is that where we are in terms of pre-visualization and this kind of impasse to 3D CAD execution that could lead to revolutionizing architecture, let alone Hollywood
Yeah.
production design and gaming production design?
Well, for the brainstorm initialization, yes, AI has got a lot of strife over there. Definitely, people start embracing. Now, I'm not talking about the legal side, the ethical side, and but there are a lot of pushbacks, and many times the reason why that happens is probably because of this. Like a lot of studios, they stay away because they don't want to have a lawsuit or something like that. So that's one aspect. But I do not want to touch on that side. I will take the creative side because that's
Yes.
where I think it's actually important, because people, they are still creative. To me, still, like the job of a director, like to have the idea and combining all this. I think that is still human. I don't think we get to the point where, oh, we'll do this automatically. I will do. No, it's not going to happen. Like even there were people which they tried that before. It didn't work. It's a very low quality product. People will smell it right away. They don't like it, right? You're not gonna sell it. It's not, it's like a cheap product, if you want to call it in that way. But when, for instance, when we talk about getting a little bit more complex, and I don't think we are there. That means you're not gonna have a quality using AI. You have a good start, but still a lot of human, even manual input, I will say, it's still needed. For example, there are people which they make games with characters built with AI, and there are some examples. They have an image in MidJourney, they convert it in and after that in Blender they fix it, they clean it up, and added a few more things, improve the meshes, and they create like a small game, or an intro for a game. But when you compare that with the classical way of doing, they are kind of in the balance, because at the end you still want the quality, and most of the time, even if you have a good saving in the front using some AI, still the bulk of the work, I think, it's in the middle to try to do it as a real good quality product. And that is purely based on human input. It's not like you let automatically AI to do stuff. Can you do it? Yes, I think in time you can find the workflow, and if it's repetitive, this is where the advantage of AI is. When you do repetitive, and it's not maybe AI, is, let's say, smart software, if you want, or like
Right.
advanced products, but
It is software. It is
yeah.
robots. I haven't seen a robot
But
yet.
a lot of people, they get upset when AI, it's use it as a term, but I think it's also overused, and maybe it's not in the true sense. But
It's a tool, it's software, and I like
right,
that. But I also like what you're talking about, that creatives are still in the driver's seat.
exactly.
And because one, they had the years of experience, and well, I talk about this a lot. They have the aesthete, the
Right.
aesthetic, right? That eye to discern that it's working, certainly in an environment, or that aesthetically it matches a director's vision, a designer's vision, whatever. But the opportunity is that these tools in the hands of true creatives are very powerful. And It's not about replacement. It's about
Advancement.
efficiencies and speed to realization of an idea. I have an idea for a vehicle in this game. I have an idea of what a dystopian future looks like in New York City or any city in the world, and what does that look like? And you can immediately get results. And what used to be, you know, on the creative side, what used to be kind of mood boards or research, right? You collect, well, I have all these images, and you present this board, whether it's to a director or client, and you say, we're kind of feeling it's like this, a combination of all this. And now you have a tool that has done all the research for you. It's a stack of image research, right? And then it compiles an expression of what that traditional mood board used to be. It's like, well, now here's an image that I made pretty quickly on MidJourney, let's say, and it saved me a lot of work and research, and I like it. I'm presenting it.
Yeah.
To me,
But
it's an empowering moment and a great tool, right?
yes, it is. And just to highlight, as we said in construction, when somebody's got a good foundation, you see it right away. There is and that's when we talk about creative. You'll see a person who's got a really good background, foundation, stuff which, they have the experience. They did that before. They know what looks okay and what it is. Yeah, you got lucky, you got that image, right? And another interesting aspect, a lot of people thinks AI it's a shortcut, gets fast results, right? The good results with AI actually have a lot of time behind the good results by creative. Maybe he created like hundreds of them and you see only one and you think, oh, he got it from the first time right. No, reality is actually it takes time even with AI. It
Mm.
takes time to find what you are looking for because again, you play with a lot of wild stuff, in MidJourney. You do not have the controls as you want it in a classical way. Of course, you can use the prompt and you learn the tricks, use those words and focus on this. In MidJourney, when you do a prompt, at least three things you need to specify if you want to have a good results. First, you need to say exactly what you want, the subject. I want a cosmonaut, for example, right? And after that, you need to explain on what environment I'm putting that. So you need to put that in a context. I'm calling the environment and the lighting and the mood and so you say I want a cosmonaut in space or on Mars with canyons around and after that the third part, which is probably the most important one and a lot of people miss, is to add your artistic side to it. How you want the render to look like, how you want the lighting to be over there. Add terms from a different industry, add terms from photography. Hey, I want some bokeh, I want some lighting, rim lighting, and so on, right? So when you add those specifics, but for that particular industry, and take the industry on the visual side, like photography, cinematics, arts like movies and stuff like that. And when you put that, you'll see the difference, and also the whole artistic way, color, watercolor, or painting, what kind of painting, what periods, and like.
Just try not to mention artists, especially if they're
Yes.
alive, right?
Well, no, with the artist, here is what happened with the artist. I do not put artists because I don't have to. I think, unfortunately, it is already embedded in the algorithm. Like, for instance, I made the examples before. Each time when I'm making a prompt and I'm adding the word, for instance, comics, you're going to have something looking like Möbius, which is Giraud, or something in that kind of area. You add sci-fi, okay. Sid Mad is going to pop up. Blade Runner kind of stuff is going to pop up. Why?
Right.
Because pretty much is the
Already in there. Yeah.
yeah, it's already there. I don't think you need to add the artist, and that is where the challenge comes. Because again, I'm not using artist name, but people's going, oh, there you see, you use that guy work. No, not really. Actually, it's quite opposite. I use mine, and I'm using the described version in
You're
MidJourney.
using a genre description.
Right, and it's giving other people's names, and it's actually my picture, right?
Yeah, right. But at
Which
this
is
point, can't be copyrighted, right? They're not a
right.
copyright. It's not accepting AI generated art as being created by a human. So there's some work there to do because I there has to be the shift where, let's just say, there's a character designer, even in a video company, and they do all their pre-visualization with AI and can get, a 3D model out of it, character turnarounds. They've developed that character in a AI environment, but the copyright office is saying, well, that's not ownable or trademarkable or
Right. You
copyrightable.
cannot use it basically. So
Right, but then the video game company wants to own their IP. So therein lies this conflict, this friction between, well, how can I develop IP if it can't be owned and I'm working for a gaming company, and it's a conundrum, right?
yeah, but you know what's the interesting part? So we are talking kind of on the visual side, 2D.
Yes.
Now imagine in, let's say, 5 years when the booming on the Metaverse is gonna pop up. Mark Zuckerberg is trying to push it as much as he can, which
Yeah.
yeah, that's
I
fine on my side.
I don't think
But
it happened,
but
but okay.
no, that's fine. Everybody's got their own opinion. But when we jump to 3D, the things get interesting because okay, we understand it that 2D, looks like that person or that person, but we're gonna reach to a point when metaverses will be created automatically or from a prompt or from something, right? A data input which could be the user itself. So in 5 years, somebody's gonna say, you know what, I'm going in that platform, doesn't matter the name, and I'm writing a prompt, and with AR glasses, I'm going, inside of that environment. So here are the challenges. One, from 2D visual, I don't think that matters too much. Yeah, you can have it, but think about the 3D side, like how we're
Mhm.
gonna control that. Like if it's the same principle, if somebody have a model, how are you gonna trace that model? Like you have a car or whatever, a wheel of the car or
Mhm.
the seat of the car. Like how are you gonna have that traceable? Because any vertex you move, it's a different thing, right? It's imagine an image, you move a vertex, and oh, it's not that person's drawing because I moved that vertex.
Changed.
Well,
Yeah.
it's far more interesting, and on top of that, you do have the visual effects. It's not only another dimension in the Z scale. It's also the texture side, the way of doing the 3D modeling itself. It's point clouds, or if it's a mesh, or So there is where I'm seeing actually where AI is gonna scratch their head and they'll say, how are we gonna trace this back? And maybe they will go something similar to what they have with the blockchain, because it's easy, technologically speaking, we can easily trace back everything, right?
Yeah.
Even right now with all those challenges, lawsuits, and like everybody can go back and see who posted the first time on internet that particular image. It's no difference from Bitcoin at the end, right? But
Yeah.
the sad part is, if we want that, who's going to control that? Again, goes to the big tech, big industries, and
Yeah,
how.
big tech has a history of not compensating anybody really
Yes,
for their work.
they hide behind that. Okay, it's fair use. Well, yeah, it's fair use. I agree with you, but at one time we need to draw the line, right?
Yeah,
Because
but the blockchain equation is interesting, and I've talked to other people about this. Is that, yeah, the altruism of what blockchain was supposed to be, it was trying to empower individuals to control their creative as it moves through the internet or the digital world.
yeah,
And ideally, with that altruism, everybody can and should be compensated along that chain,
that's what I'm saying. We
right?
can easily trace it
And
back.
it's like, wow, I mean, that would be fantastic. That would not only assign copyrights, it would assign trademarks, it would assign compensation for the use, and recognize contributors along the way, because the history of creativity is we've all been influenced by the great master painters, the great directors, and then you synthesize that into your personal expression, whether it's a movie or it's a painting, an illustration, a graphic design. And yeah, we've all built our careers on the shoulders of others with much respect and even recognition and homage. But, recognizing that as not necessarily fair use, it's like that's the way creative has always been done. throughout,
Well,
the centuries. And so, here we are in this new world of blockchain and digital art and AI art, and we're in a technology world where the technology, I'm hoping, can solve this age-old problem and provide some type of compensation and trackability and accountability in the process. And that's assuming everyone can play
it
nice
does.
in this world and not be abusive, just like what I call the original sin of big tech is, originally scraping the internet, which you can't go back that original sin. But how you move forward, and this is starting to happen with small language models where
Yes,
they're being
customization.
ethically sourced.
Yeah.
And I think that will be a new wave, and pitting alt tech against big tech to come up with these solutions, which I believe will increase AI adoption, because they are addressing this original sin and using technology to provide new solutions, not abandoning AI altogether. They're just saying, no, it's a great thing. It's just how you build your data set has been the problem. And now certain companies are saying, we've figured it out and we're doing it this way. And so, I'm optimistic in terms of people thinking out of the box and new founders finding those new solutions. Do you carry that same optimism?
Yes, yes. On that side, I'm very optimistic. The only thing is I'm a little bit more pragmatic because I'm trying to see also the other side, basically, in the sense that, for instance, let's take the blockchain. The value is actually based on scarcity. That means it's not available. It's something which is unique and it's a limited number. And that might create some stuff which I do not agree. I do not think you should force through not make it available the value going up. I'm quite the opposite. I'm in the sense that spread it out, make it open, let it plane it off, right? It's like air or water. Let
Right.
it, don't create a desert environment and after that you have the water and you have $1 million or something like that, right? That is where I'm seeing the challenge with, let's say, the blockchain slash, even if we implement this kind of process for tracking back the artists. Because at the end, let's say this goes to Supreme Court is going to find the solution and say, hey, guys, you figure out you're gonna pay the artist, but my concern is the pay for the artist is gonna be like 2 cents or 3 cents, right?
Right. At the
Right?
end of the day. Yeah. Right.
So at the end they will say, okay, you got paid, yeah, but it's not the value, and in time, if we apply the same logic, let's say we have something, an image which tracing back, and you need to pay that to 100 people because each of them they had some value or they had something to it. At one time you spread it out, you kind of dilute the value, and somebody's gonna hold it up. It's like, again, like Bitcoin. Somebody was holding up to rise the value, and after that they release it time by time, small by small. Actually, the real people which are actually taking the benefits are only the first ones. Those which come later, you have only a tiny fraction. It's like a big thing at the beginning, and after that, the tiny, 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 tiny toward the end. And that is where is the back side, the dark side, if you want. But I don't think it's dark. It's just people to understand it, to understand the principle.
It's
Because,
difficult to understand. It seems
right,
it seems like there could be a marketplace for like-minded creatives that want to participate and agree in principle to how something can increase in value and track value in a way
right.
that is ethical and pro-artist, and don't create these roadblocks, right? But create this freeway to a new economy. And I think that's what's really interesting. And I'm just looking for a founder to imagine that world and that business model and apply these technologies. If I'm speaking about it now, someone already has the idea and they're implementing something like it. That's called simultaneity, and I think that does exist. So I'm
Well, but
hoping.
it depends on the infrastructure because, again, we are back to the tech industry. Whatever is done right now, it's under the tech umbrella. Like
Yeah.
Can you get out? Well, yeah, I guess, we'll find something, we do something with the conscience, and, we may think the brain is a computer, but not in the sense as a computer, and we go toward other alternatives. But the fact is, we are in a tech world, and you're not going to escape it. It's like it is there, right? That's the progress of humanity so far. I do think there will be other stuff too. In time, we're going to discover with AI, actually, we're going to have breakthroughs. We already see it. We discover new materials. We discover of elongating life. In medical field, we have nanorobots, and we can do ton of other stuff with AI. We can determine cancer. We can predetermine, strokes and stuff like that. There is ton of advantage of using AI. But as a principle, with all this, it's also we are missing the let's say the environment or the mechanism of being fair from financial point of view, because right now, again, it's a certain people who's got like the Bitcoin, you got everything, and after that, nothing for the rest. And this is where I'm seeing the big revolution. And with AI, I think it's coming, because at one time you create something and you're gonna have a stream of revenue coming. Just you do it once, because that's the secret, actually. That's a big secret which a lot of people do not understand, why the tech industry is so advanced and it's so difficult to pull them up. Mostly is because in the past, when you did not have the tech, you did one product, you spend the time on it, you sell it, whatever you do, a car, a house, whatever, right? Now with this tech, you do a product and you sell it trillions of times, millions of times. You make a song and you sell it, like through this platform. So basically, the time which you spend for a product, it is exponentially multiplied. So if you want to be successful, think about this principle. Do it, spend your time, whatever, once, and sell it multiple times. And whatever we did that in the past with a specific product, particular construction, we build buildings, right? You do it once, you got the money, that's it. You're not going to have anything.
Right.
So
And a million pennies is a livable income. So when you talk about
right.
expense,
So like
the opportunity is millions of uses, not 10,
exactly
12.
So
Right.
whatever you do it once, and that's the reason I see the advantage of this kind of blockchain. You do it once, and even penny per day. If you have a penny per day, whatever you do it, 5 minutes for this, 5 minutes for that, that pays you back. And as longer you live, obviously, as longer you're gonna have more revenue. Which sounds utopic, but it's not. It is actually mathematical fact. I can prove that. It's logical. It's nothing as a flow over there, and we can see it. Take music industries. The artists, they do it a song, and after that they sell that millions of times. I'm telling you, it's not like in construction. I'm making something and okay, done once time.
One building, right?
Right.
Right.
So anyway, we deviate a little bit from
Yeah,
that.
no, but it's a good
This is great.
discussion that comes out of the age that we're in. I want to get back to your work, and I know you've written books, you've kind of animated some of these
Yeah.
scenes from your books, and they look fantastic. Tell me about that journey of being a book writer and an illustrator creator using all these tools.
Yeah, well, first of all, I write books before. So I do have several free on Apple Store books. I like photography a lot. Photography in the sense that I like cameras and mechanical part of it. Like I'm a civil engineer, but also I do have industrial design background. I'm not really a mechanical engineer, but I know a lot of mechanics because when I was a kid, I was actually taking my toys apart most of the time. My parents said, okay, you destroy this one. I said, no, I made this one. So basically, I combine things. I did that since I was a kid. So I write several books about that. I really like sketching. Again, I do have some architectural background. Actually, I do have degree in architecture. And I was kind of rebel in the architecture, being also an engineer. Everybody looks to me, oh, go to engineers. You don't belong here. That pissed me off many times. But so I was drawing, and my style was more like organic, kind of like Zaha Hadid type of style, because it was, let's say, as a rebel, I will say, well, it will be a time when we're going to go away from all those flat surfaces. Everything is flat in the past because it's driven pure by the manufacturing, the industrial, and at the end it's pure economics, right? It's easier to do something modular and prefabricated. It's low cost. But with 3D, revenge of the Jedi. You can back and with 3D it's actually more economical to do round shapes, and I do see that shift. And I see also right now it's not very in detail with the 3D model, especially for the housing. There are examples, but you're not gonna have square corners. Always you're gonna have it round because when you print it, that goes around. So it's interesting. However, the future with the 3D, I think it's going to take a while. We are not there yet. Not only that, even from materials point of view, we don't have the materials, but it will be something. But back to the books. I was writing a book of architectural concept. Again, it's free on Apple Book. Basically, you see all my rounding crazy shapes and putting the whole world of building houses upside down. So I read that before. When AI came, I realized that some of my sketches, like this book which I read, the concept architecture, which is actually crayon drawings, it's not a color drawing. I intended to color it, and I did a bunch of them in Photoshop, like kind of speed painting back in early 2000s. But I didn't really like it, and I said, well, I will park it on the side. And recently with AI, I start coloring most of them, and I realized, oh, look, I can do really good results. Take my sketch, put it in AI, write the prompt, and actually the results they are very nice. So in that way, I start writing more books. I do have the sci-fi dose, so all those are available on Amazon, on Kindle as well, because I'm also a big science fiction fan as well. So, and based on that, considering all this year, talking with the friends on LinkedIn and people which are involved with AI, we thought maybe on 1st of June, maybe we can write a book. And we came with that idea, I believe in March or April this year. And by 1st of June, we actually came with a book called Azimuth, which is an alphabet adventure. So it's a book for kids between 5 and 10 years old with stories per each letter. So we were like around 10, 11 artists over there. And each of us came and covered a few of the letters. And we put a story over there done with AI, basically LLMs in Gemini or, like any other stuff, ChatGPT. So you write the story in that way. We try to tie them together. And obviously the images, they were done with MidJourney or other equivalents like Musavir, some of them they were with Newark. Very interesting book, compile it together. Probably I'll put the link so people can see it. And right now we're translating those books in different languages because all of us are from different countries. We're gonna translate it in, so far we have like 7 or 8 languages. The first one was fantastic. Actually, and hopefully by the end of this month, we'll have the second Azimuth book for kids as well with stories. So that will be the way of writing books. You try to
that's for the next
the
generation, right? Which hopefully will have less friction and learning and adopting AI than our generation. So we're getting towards the end of our podcast, and I just wanted to allow you to plug anything you want. You just mentioned the book. There'll be links in the description, but anywhere else that people can find you. I know you have a LinkedIn deal every week. I've been a guest a couple of times. Thank you.
Yeah, so I usually try to keep on Thursday at noon Eastern time an event. It's a podcast. It's an audio event. It's not a video event where I'm talking about innovation with AI, news about AI, and 3D revolution. Because I think 3D revolution is happening right now. I see it personally. I see it. I don't think it's to the verge. I think it's still in the pioneering mode. But we talk about that in a weekly basis. Feel free to find me on LinkedIn, Sandu Baciu. And also regularly I'm posting various images done with or videos as well, because you can do from an image, you can do a video as well. Using Luma AI, for instance, or Sora didn't came out yet, but we have other ones. We have Kling and many others. And I'm posting that regularly. Typically on Fridays, like today, I do a team. They call it Friday Robots. I like sci-fi. I like cosmonauts and astronauts. And, I read a lot of sci-fi.
We call them astronauts in this country, but...
no, exactly. Cosmonauts, they were in the eastern side during the Eastern Bloc, and astronauts, they were on the western side.
I know.
No difference. Both are actually in the decks, so I can use both terms correctly. So-
Okay, good.
but yeah, no, it's all about discovering new universes, new places. Basically, be curious, find more. Like I
Yeah.
keep that spirit of discovering things. It's awesome. Whatever you do, try to learn. Try
Well,
to.
your work is very inspirational, and I'm a big fan of Sid Mead. And we talked about this before, but yeah, I mean, you're like the next Sid Mead. I just want to see your work in like movies and stuff. I don't. Have you been contacted by Hollywood at all?
I did talk with a few people from Hollywood, but in the sense that we just chat. In that sense, I give them some of suggestions and stuff like that. I invite them to my event. We talk about it. But the thing with the Hollywood, of course, we know there were strikes and stuff like that. But I think it's more on the creative part. I think everybody's got that creative spark, and the advantage of using AI, you can let people express themselves.
Yeah.
Before it was difficult to express. Like even George Lucas, he said it himself. His first movie, TXX, people do not understand it. It got rejected so many times, and even when in 70s, when he did the Star Wars, the first movie,
Yeah.
nobody believed him. Nobody,
Yeah,
right? And
he created the genre,
exactly.
so to
He
speak.
created, he believed it. And in time, if you look to the whole thing, he switched also, everything at the time it was on the film. He switched it to digital. He was actually, if you want to blame somebody going Hollywood on digital, blame
Yeah,
blame him, right?
blame George Lucas.
Right, because he did an awesome job. He was curious. He was trying to find something new.
Yeah.
And again, people saw it, and he created
Wi-
a
The Wild
universe.
West in space. That's the concept. Listen, thanks, Sandu, for being a guest. We'll probably have you on again because your work is so interesting and you're so prolific. And for those of you listening and watching, thanks for tuning in, and catch more of our Realm IQ sessions on your favorite podcast platforms like Spotify and YouTube. And please follow and smash that subscribe button. Thanks again, everybody.
Thank you. All the best. Have a good one.
Realm IQ. Book your corporate AI workshop today.
CurtDoty.co. Branding, marketing and product development.